Is the United States attempting to subvert democracy in Zimbabwe? As you all know, and welcome back to my channel. As you all know, America for the past decade or so, well, actually for the past 2 decades, has been on a crusade which they have purported to be a crusade for democracy, a crusade which is aimed at restoring and initiating democracy in territories which they deem at risk, right? But as you have seen, America has had its own challenges with democracy and with maintaining the rule of law and with social harmony, right? And with their economic policies, right? But apparently in Zimbabwe, America has continued its efforts to subvert the democracy of Zimbabwe. Okay. Now, as you all can remember, under Robert Mugabe, there was a consistent effort to destabilize the economy of Zimbabwe. Under Robert Mugabe, due to economic sanctions and due to the reluctance to trade and collaborate with the European nations, the European nations had actually um, placed Zimbabwe in a category which was not um, feasible for economic activities. Okay, and so they were not trading and they were not supporting Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe. Now, as you all know, European nations and European controlled nations um, always seek a leader who they can control, right? And under Robert Mugabe, who was being very vocally critical of um, Western policies. He's been critical of the European nations and their policies. And so, for a very long time, Zimbabwe has faced skyrocketing, um, what's it called, inflation. They had skyrocketing inflation. The cost of goods in the food stores were ridiculously high due to the inflation induced by the economic pressures that were placed on Zimbabwe. Okay. Now, recently, about a year ago, Zimbabwe had elections and they installed Emerson Mnangagwa, right? And this was hailed by some as a change, but for others, Emerson Mnangagwa was considered to be um, walking in the shadow of Robert Mugabe. Many people tried to say that it was not a change, it was mainly a change of the face, but it was still deemed as being uh, a Mugabe esque administration. Okay? And due to this perception, and due to the opposition leader not being installed as president, um, Zimbabweans and particularly the state have been speculating that the US is continuing to destabilize um, the modern day Zimbabwe. And due to this, they still face economic pressures. They have not had any growth economically for a period of time. Many people are saying that the numbers are worse than under the Mugabe regime, and this is due to um, the perception that Emerson Mnangagwa is still walking in the same footsteps of Robert Mugabe, and anybody who is a student of history will recall that anytime African leaders are in extremely nationalistic, when African leaders speak in the best interest of Africans first, they are always deemed as being problematic for the European nations because that is a person who will not allow the free reign of the European market in the African economic environment. Okay, so people, let me know what your thoughts are about these developments. The perception is now that due to Emerson Mnangagwa maintaining control, that the U.S. will continue to destabilize the economic atmosphere of Zimbabwe. Okay, and recently, another note, they actually issued a travel advisory claiming that Zimbabwe is not a safe place to travel. So if they basically cripple the tourism market, it'll be very difficult for them to have that injection of revenue to the economy, and people will refuse to travel. But in this regard, it's important that the Continental Free Trade Agreement be encouraged so that we can have an independent economy, an economy that is independent of a dependence on foreign aid, on foreign trade, on foreign subsidies. We don't need these loans, these predatory loans that have destabilized the third world countries, in particular the black countries in the Caribbean, the black countries on the continent of Africa. Okay, we need an independent economy that will not be so easily destabilized by the refusal of European nations to trade or to participate in our economy. Okay, so people, let me know what your thoughts are about all of these developments. Let me know what you think about this issue. Do you think that this is what is taking place? Um, is this another example of the subversion of the democracy in African nations by the foreign powers, namely the European nations and America? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. One love.